not prepared!
Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 5, guys. The new expansion came out less than 24 hours ago, but we're already seeing some good stats from hsreplay.net. So I'm gonna do my best to give you guys what are the best performing decks so far for each class, and we're gonna go over the 5 best performing decks a little bit more in detail. Sorry for the bland background, my frickin' projector decided to stop working today, so I ordered myself a new one, and yeah, it's gonna be better next time. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, a like and subscribe would really be appreciated. And also, if you're serious about Hearthstone, you really should consider subscribing, because I will keep on giving you weekly, detailed meta reports so you know what's the best performing deck at each particular moment. Needless to say, definitely save your dust if you're low on it, because obviously this is not a refined meta and some of these decks might actually fizzle out in the end. Now let's jump into it. The first deck on the list is gonna be the good old and well-known Pirate Warrior. Pirate Warrior definitely got a lot of good support from the new cards, and to no one's surprise, it's still pretty strong. And it's probably the best performing deck out there right now. The deck is simple, you know what to do with it, and you also have the inevitability of completing your quest and really start overwhelming your opponent. We're having quite a few new good cards in this one, including Amalgam of the Deep, which is a pretty good card all around, and you're gonna be seeing it a lot in all sorts of classes because it just ties together so many archetypes greatly. We also have the new Obsidian Smith, which is basically there to always draw you an extra pirate, but it's also a 2-mana cheap pirate for you to keep on quest progressing nice and early. The Scarred Trawler as well as in here, Puffer Fist, which is also gonna be a pretty good staple card in most weapon classes, and it's probably a bit too powerful honestly, but we will see what that does. And we also have the new colossal minion, Nelly, which is really showing how strong Mistress Might really is, and I really hope we finally see some action taken toward Mistress Might, because he is just ending games out of the blue where he shouldn't. And that's a little bit too much. We all know Hearthstone said they're moving away from charge mechanics, and this is anything but moving away from charge mechanics. It's just too much for 6 mana. But let's not talk about nerfs this early in the meta. Anyway, the deck is basically same old Pirate Warrior, you complete your quest nice and fast, and with Rakara and Nelly at the top, you should be able to secure the game as soon as turn 7 or 8. Some lists also run the deck without Nelly, since it is a 7-drop, and in the end of the day, you are definitely passionate about a lot cheaper stuff, but she's definitely a decent inclusion, and she can win you games which you weren't supposed to win. For other good warrior builds right now, also Control Warrior still works fine, with Kazakhstan and Onyxia, and it's running barely any new cards. So if you had that before, you can keep on jamming that and still feel good about it. Charge Warrior is also still winning more than losing, so you got that going for you too. And you are gonna be able to punish all of the aggro players out there. Moving down to the next obvious best performing deck out there, which is Mage. Mage literally got built from the ground up, and the new expansion gave it so much support it is hands down one of the best decks out there right now. You could say basically the entire deck is new, and from the glance of an eye, a Fireball seems to be the only old card. And it's probably not even a staple honestly. But yeah, Mage is very solid right now, and people who've already played it also admit it feels a little bit too strong. There are a ton of OP cards in this one, but maybe one of the biggest offender here would be the Seafloor Gateway. So yeah, I hope you don't disenchant your extra copies of this one. I know I didn't. Anyway, the deck cribs out really nicely, and after you discount your hand, things go out of hand pretty fast. Mecha Shark is demolishing the board basically, the security automation starts growing out of proportion, and you basically get to flood the board really fast while destroying the opponent's board. We are also running the new Colossal Minion in here, which also feels pretty good. And we also have Any Stormcoil, which is the second legendary in this deck, so we don't have that many in this one. For other good mage decks, we also have this new small spell mage, which is basically the Naga mage people were talking about, and that also looks pretty interesting, but I do believe the skill cap there is a little bit higher, and that is why we're seeing not so great results so far with it. Amulet Mage and Ping Mage don't seem to be doing too good right now. Moving down to Paladin, where we have also Mech Paladin, which is the second best mech deck right now. This Mech Paladin list looks a little bit more on the buff side, and it is aggro, and again we have a lot of good mech support for it. We have the new Radar Detector, which basically should be drawing at least 3 cards for you most of the time. We also have the new Paladin mech Seafloor Savior, again security automation, a Sharon Moomcatcher, and basically all sorts of bunch of mechs, buffs, and stuff to go with it. Lightforge Cariel obviously still makes the cut, Akani feels pretty decent as well, Any Stormcoil can be used to copy a big mech or even your entire Colossal, and also you're running the Colossal too, which is one of the better Colossal minions out there right now. This one is gonna be a little bit more on the expensive side, but technically it's running free legendaries, since Akani was free, and also Carol, you probably already had her if you were enjoying Paladin to begin with. We also have Troggin here, so you can control the spell decks in the early game. For other good Paladin decks, we also have Hand Buff Paladin, and there's also a Control Paladin with the Colossal Mech in there as well. There's also Highlander Paladin out there, but it doesn't seem to be doing too well so far. On the number 4 spot, we also have Ramp Druid, which honestly looks a little bit all over the place right now, but it is actually the best performing Druid deck in top 1000 Legend. But I think we have to blame No Hands Gamer for that, because he really started wrecking with it. Anyway, this is basically a Ramp Druid again. It does run Kazakhstan, but it doesn't look like this is the main win condition here, since you're running a lot of non-dragon minions, and he's basically a backup plan in there. We are running the 2 Naga Giants, and we also have Oracle of Elune and Ivos the Forest Lord. So that is definitely gonna be a problem for your Kazakhstan to work nice and early. We are running new cards like Miracle Growth in here, which draws you a bunch of cards and also is an excellent defense tool. The Flipper Friends are also in here, which feels kinda weird, but I guess it makes the cut. And it also makes your Naga Giants cheaper, so I guess that's the main reason for it. But also we're running Fandrel, so that also makes some sense for the Flipper Friends. And we obviously are running one of the best Druid cards, if not best all-time cards for the new set, Aquatic Form, which is basically a 0 mana tracking. Guff is a no-brainer in this deck as well, since it is a Ramp Druid. And we're also running Nourish and Wild Growth, which is also basically Ramp. For the other Druid decks, we also have Anaconda Druid still doing nice and well, with Celestial Alignment in there. Beast Druid is actually below 50% right now, which is kinda weird, but those are the stats so far, and that's about it for Druid so far. There are a bunch of other iterations for Ramp Druid, which look pretty different from each other, but all in all the ramp aspect remains the same. And for the last deck for the top 5, we also have Burn Shaman, which looks quite different from the Burn Shaman we were used to. We no longer have cards like Bloom, as well as Overdraft, and that makes the build a lot more different. The way you burn opponents with this deck is by building whiteboards and also going for Bioluminance, which gives a lot of spell power like that. And if your boards stick, you can basically cast 2 Bioluminances, and that literally gives you plus 14 spell power, which is insane. You have several ways of building whiteboards, and you also have good old Snowfall Giant in here, so you can control the board nice and easy. You're running the new Colossal in here, as well as Queen Ashara. Coral Keepers also help you build whiteboards. Caverns are obviously still in this one. You draw a bunch of cards with Multicaster, and we have our burn spells in the form of Frostbite, Lightning Bolt, and also Scalding Gazer. You can discover a bunch more from the Asharan scroll, and we curve out with Brukan at the top. So yeah, the deck is not simple to play, but it's definitely very powerful, and people are starting to reach number 1 legend with it as well, so it's definitely worth the check. For other Shaman decks, we also have Rainbow Shaman, which kinda looks like the same thing as Burn Shaman. I don't even know why they call it Rainbow Shaman. But here, instead of Bioluminance, you are running the School Teacher, which often gives you 1/1s that do cast Bioluminance like that, and that makes it a lot easier and a lot cheaper for you to actually OTK your opponent in a single turn. Also, Murloc Shaman is trying to be an archetype right now, but so far it's just 50%. That's it for the 5 best decks. Now let's look at the classes we haven't mentioned so far. Starting off with Demon Hunter, where we have Token Demon Hunter at the top, with not that big a sample size, but the win percent looks impressive. Fel Demon Hunter with Jace at the top is also looking pretty fine, and people are speculating that this is probably the best performing Demon Hunter archetype right now. Death Rattle Demon Hunter is also acceptable, but it's barely 50%. For Hunter, Quest Hunter is obviously the best performing Hunter right now, but I didn't include it in the top 5 because, I don't know, it just feels like old news basically, because it's barely running any new cards. We also have Beast Hunter that's doing kinda fine, and you could do some pretty nutty and high rolly stuff with it, so if you are looking into some fun, different way to play Hunter right now, this might be the way to go. And we also have Face Hunter, which I personally tried, and it really did feel pretty powerful. With Priest, this is probably the most confusing class right now, and we have Silence Priest at the top. But we're used to seeing Priest struggle in the early days of the meta, and after that skyrocket in win percent, when people actually realize how they should be playing it. Control Priest also seems acceptable, but after that, it's pretty steep downhill from there. For Rogue, Pirate Rogue seems to be the best performing deck, and also I did try this one, and it didn't feel particularly too strong in the high level meta, but it definitely has a lot of powerful cards, and I do believe it is gonna be pretty strong from Diamond to Legend. Other than that, for Rogue, you don't really have another working archetype so far. With Warlock, Murloc Warlock is actually doing well. I did try it and I did fail miserably with it at the high Legend meta, but it definitely has some pretty big synergies in it, but I'm just not sure how strong it is. But yeah, for Warlock, it's basically Murloc Warlock for now. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in this new expansion. But again, make sure to save your dust if you don't have too much of it. I will be giving you another top 5, maybe after a couple of days, with more refined lists. So definitely consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05 and I'll see you in my next video or stream.